I want to take Suzanne in Indiana. You're wondering to know what our best arguments are against Calvinism.
A specific
Hold on,
thing.
1 second.
I love it.
No problem.
Okay.
Let me make sure. Okay, yeah. Here,
Okay.
hi.
Cool.
So I'm not actually familiar with Calvinism. Is it based on the Bible?
Yeah. Well.
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry,
so
my
then
Catholic school-
my generic response to anything based on the Bible is that the Bible is 66 or 72 books curated by man, edited by men for theological purposes, not history or evidence. So, but anyway, go ahead. What is Calvinism and why should we take it seriously?
Because we have that based on science. It's a collaboration.
Science is a collaboration between religion and science, or?
Yes.
Okay, so what part of science talks about a being outside of space and time actually being able to exist?
My main point is I have an older brother who's a Calvinist and an older sister who's a lesbian and an atheist. So what
And I hope you also
is,
have friendly Thanksgivings, but.
Well, my sister hasn't been to a holiday in a couple of years, but that's not a big deal.
It isn't?
Anyway.
She doesn't make
my
that good
point
cranberry
is-
sauce.
Okay, let her make her point.
Sorry.
No. My point is, if Calvinism is true, if God made the universe and predestined, you're going to believe this and you're going to believe that, and sorry about you if you're not included, what is the atheist argument against it?
So there's a few aspects of, that people would bring up. So the ones the one that Jim brought up is, regardless of the type of Christianity, whether it's Catholicism, Anglicanism, Church of England, or Calvinism, it's based on Christian traditions and around a central doctrine and around a central testament and scripture, the Bible. And so the stage at which you're talking about, okay, there's science, there's this, there's that, and then we believe what's in the Bible, that point right there, why should we accept that the Bible is a reliable source of claims about the universe, even before we get to the specific predestination?
Right. And if God created the universe and everything in the universe is predestined, that means that God sacrificed his own son and created the universe just to kill his own son. Right? Ultimately is what that means.
Yeah. So
God created the universe.
what's your problem?
Pardon?
I think it's probably that.
What's the problem?
What's the problem with God wanting to create his own, kill his own son? That means he's not omnibenevolent, right?
Wait, repeat?
If God created the universe just to kill his own son, does that mean he's omnibenevolent?
That might be a misinterpretation that we don't know.
So wait.
My
So
question
God created the universe. I'm getting into the argument right here, right? If God created the universe and it's predestined, everything that happens in it is predestined, and your God is the omni-God, he's omnipotent, omniscient, and omnibenevolent, is it benevolent to create a universe just to kill your own son? Is that benevolent?
Not according to human standards, but according to Christian God standards, yes.
So really quickly,
here's
are
the thing.
you judging
gonna
God
argue
based on
against
your standards? Because those are human standards.
Repeat?
So there's the argument that we don't live in a particularly benevolent world. There's the argument that in the Bible, the God described is not particularly benevolent. You don't have to quite go to Isaiah 45:7, where God says he created evil, right? But part of the thing is there's no reason to accept these claims that we see. Additionally, if I were to believe that there's a God who's predestined all of this, then he made me an atheist. Right.
And
so there isn't a reason for me to believe.
it's his
Additionally, why would I accept this argument? I don't have a good reason to give the Bible any weight. Why should I accept that the Bible is a reliable source of truth? Rather than...
You don't have to. You don't have to. Under the Calvinist worldview, it's all predestined.
Okay, so nothing we do matters.
Well, it being predestined in the claim doesn't tell me anything about whether or not I should accept it.
Right.
Right. So either this is true or it's not. Right. Either here I'll give an example. I'm not talking about your beliefs. If someone said, either the events in Star Trek happened or they didn't, and I said, okay, well, why should I believe that these episodes about a show are a reliable source about what happened? And they say, well, Spock saved the entire ship. That doesn't really tell me about whether or not the source of these lessons, the source of the doctrine, is true. In the same way that saying, well, in Calvinism, it's predestined, doesn't tell me anything really about whether or not I should accept the Bible is true.
Or even, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. The bottom line is, if Calvinism is true, then atheists are predestined to not believe.
Okay. And where does that get us? What is that? I mean, first of all, when it comes to that, can you prove that the universe is predestined?
I can. My sister, she'd be like, "Yeah, no, we don't have free will." But me, I'm like, I can choose. I have free will.
Your brain is working and considering multiple options and choosing one. And then I hear this argument, and I always, in my head at least, say, so what? We live in a deterministic universe. Whatever decision I make is predestined. Okay, well, the part of decision-making that matters to me and to the rest of the world that's hungry and needs sleep and all of this, the thing that we can interact with is that your mind considered multiple options and chose between them. So whether or not that was always going to happen, whether or not you could rewind time, hit play and see if exactly the same thing happened, or whether people made different decisions, you're still making those decisions. So if a person doesn't want to call that free will, then just say, okay, then I've got not free will, but I'm expressing my will. Right? The fact that a rock doesn't choose to roll off a mountain doesn't make it any less heavy. If everything in my mind was predetermined by matter in motion that doesn't have an element of thought to it, it's still a mind, it's still a brain, it's still firing synapses to make my mouth move and make these sounds. So if your question is about predetermination, we can't tell the difference between a predetermined and a not predetermined world, and none of that really has anything directly to do with whether or not I should accept the basic tenets of Christianity.
Right. Or Calvinism in this case.
Yeah. So part of it is I can try and talk about like Calvinist doctrine, but please know that the reason that I don't believe isn't related to whether or not I accept predestination or free will. It's related to, okay, well, here's this religion, and it has a cultural tradition behind it, and it looks to me exactly like every other single religion. In the same way that if I run into 3 used car salesmen and they all tell me they have a super future car that never requires gas because gas prices are ridiculous right now, don't you want to buy it? And I go, well, that doesn't really make sense to me. And they say, hey, if you've got faith and you give me your cash, you'll have a magic car today. And then I hear basically that same pitch, but with slightly different magic vehicles all the way down. And they all have the same sort of, it just works, believe me, and I don't accept that. Then one person saying, well, mine comes with windshield wipers. And the other one says, well, mine's a motorcycle. You're open for the free, you can feel the wind through your hair. Well, that's a secondary question. I'm already not buying the car. So don't try and sell me on the extra features of there's predetermination or there's not. But if you want, we can talk about the doctrines of Calvinism. I just hope that point's gotten across, is that why would I believe any of this? Why would I choose any type of Christianity over Islam? Why would I choose any of them over withholding my belief until it's earned? In this regard, and in only this regard, I'm a real prude about my belief. Not a prude about many other aspects of my life, but in terms of belief, if you want this temple, then persuade me.
I don't want.
Would be my statement
Let
to
her
a
go.
God, not to you. Yeah.
Go ahead.
I'm saying, what is your most prolific argument against Calvinism?
It's the same.
God,
Okay. Go ahead.
The Bible is true, and it's all set in Timothy and whatever, and it's all true, and you guys don't have a choice but not to believe, and you're going to hell.
All right.
What argument do you have against
here's the argument against Calvinism. They need to prove that their interpretation of the Bible is correct. There's 1,000 other denominations, all of which disagree with the Calvinist claims. And so they need to prove that their claims are correct about the Bible, right? That their beliefs about the Bible are true. Given that there's 1,000 other denominations, all of whom disagree, I think, or almost all, nearly all. There's probably branches of Calvinism as well. But, there's a large number of them that disagree with this whole predetermined thing. So they've got to prove that their interpretation of the Bible is correct. And with 1,000 other, the Bible is a single piece of evidence, right? And if we had any other single piece of evidence that had 1,000 different interpretations, all of which disagreed with each other on fundamental points, like predeterminism in this case, we'd throw it out. We'd laugh at it. We wouldn't even accept. We wouldn't even close to accepting as true. We wouldn't touch with a 1,000-foot pole. But it's the Bible and it's religion, so it must be true. No, that's not how this works.
Okay, do you guys subscribe to free will?
Sort of, kind of, maybe.
I might if it doesn't have a subscription fee. It depends on what you mean by free will. So to me, I don't know whether we live in a deterministic universe, but I believe that my mind is thinking, and in as much as you want to define the limits of the decisions that I make, I'm making decisions. Yeah. So I suppose, sure.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Okay.
Yeah. The evidence is out, or the jury is out for me.
Out. Yeah.
All right. So pretend the God of the universe is out there and he's giving you all sort of free will, but you don't have free will and you're going to do what he wants to do.
Then we're just marionettes and who cares?
Yeah. If I have no capacity to affect or really to understand and know some force that's acting on my free will outside of my awareness, then I have no capacity to act or understand it. What if it's true that we're all in the Matrix, pretty much exactly in keeping
Calvinism
with
wins.
No, so here's the thing is,
see, the problem
so
is
does
we're
Catholicism,
rejecting,
so
right.
does Islam, so does every other religion.
Lutheranism, they all
The claim
went
that you've made about, well, if it's true, then you wouldn't have free will. Okay, well, if it's true that there's a God that created all of this specifically to see if intelligent life would exist and then accept a naturalistic universe, if there's an atheist gambit type God, well, you better stop accepting bad reasons, or that God is going to send you to an infinitely worse hell than you could imagine. Haha, that claim wins. Oh, if Islam is true, then God has determined everything that happens, and the only way to get there is to serve Islam. Haha, Islam wins. To say, if this is true, you have no free will, Calvinism wins, I don't understand what competition that is, or what it wins, or even what the claim is. If free will doesn't exist, then I'm not freely choosing not to believe. But what would that even mean? That you've started with an if, you've started with a there is a God in the universe, and you've started with the Bible specifically is a good place to believe. None of those check boxes have been checked. And then beyond that, saying I don't have free will doesn't give me any reason to believe that Jesus Christ sacrificed himself or did anything or any of this.
And whether or not we have libertarian free will or not doesn't prove your God exists. Either way, says nothing about your God.
It doesn't until it does.
That is got to be the.
You know, why don't we make it say something? Because right now it doesn't. So the part where it does have something to say about whether or not God exists, specifically your God that you believe in.
Yeah,
let's get to that part. Please tell me about how God exists. Yeah,
that makes no sense whatsoever.
I mean, it's a kind of like.
Yeah, you need to explain that a little bit.
When does it?
All I know is that God has shown up for me in my darkest of times. I'm married to my husband, and I can't have a baby, but
I'm sorry to hear that.
there are some things that I'm like, I have to rely on the promises of the Bible that the barren will bear children, and
yeah, do you know what makes that claim true? Actually, science.
What?
Science makes that true, right? There are for some forms of infertility, we have medical procedures that can reverse it or fix it. The Bible has nothing to say about how to go about fixing it, but science does. So again,
but science. What if I want to adopt?
Awesome.
Now I'm married.
I'm adopted.
But my goddamn stupid lesbian sister, if she wants to adopt a child, she can't.
Well, I think we know. I think we now know why she doesn't come to family events.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and let me say, I think that if a person is capable of providing a home for a child, they should be able to raise a child. So yeah. I agree with you that it's like, why can't she adopt? If that's the point you were making.
Yes, and also I'm very sad that I can't have my own children.
Yeah, my parents had to adopt.
I'm sorry to hear that.
My mom couldn't have children. She adopted me, and they adopted me and my sister.
I hope that one day you're presented with a way to have your own child, whether that's through an unexplained happening or an unexplained happening that happens after you pray, or you pray and then new medical science provides a procedure by which you can have a child. I mean, the advancement of medical technology puts a lot of energy towards childbirth and child rearing. Right? Like one of the areas of cancer that we've made the greatest advances is in basically childhood cancer. That mortality rate is way down. And so there's hope. There's hope that researchers and engineers and medical practitioners in science will find, I don't want to say a cure, but like a way for you to have a child, or, you know, there's lots of children that need adoption. But I'm sorry to hear about your bad news.
I will tell you right now that my mom does not. My mom doesn't consider me or my sister anything more than her real children, as if she'd given birth to both of us. That has never been a question. I don't know why it's a question here. You can adopt.
You.
Pardon?
That's good for you, but I married late in life, and
yeah, you just need to come to terms with the fact that you may have to adopt, and adopted children are no different than children you give birth to. They're still kids, they're still raised, and they will still love you the same. Doesn't matter.
Well, yeah, sure.
So. Anyway, we got to get on and move on to another caller. So thanks for calling, and call back if you have want to try your arguments for theism again, and we'll talk to you later. Okay, Susan? Thanks.
Thanks for calling in.
All right.
The end of that got kind of like...
Yeah.
It got less about God and more about children.
Yeah, well, we're going to leave the whole.
I believe that
I'm
children
adopted.
exist.
I have strong opinions. So we're just going to keep going here.
Let's keep going.